How many have, okay, there's two of them, okay? So, you can probably relate to what I'm getting ready to say. I have an outline that I usually try to follow, and about halfway through the outline, it turns into a question and answer session. So, that's fine with me. I like the question and answers. And so, anyway, how many, let's see, how many know the difference between a patent and a trademark and a copyright? Okay, almost everybody does. Okay. Basically, the patent is what gives you protection to prevent other people from making, using, selling, or importing a device that's covered by the claims of your patent. And another question is, do you really need a patent? It depends on whether or not you want to keep people from copying your invention. There are a lot of products on the market that aren't covered by patents. So you don't necessarily have to have a patent, but if you're going to license your patent to another company, then you need some form of protection to be able to sell that intellectual property. There are different types of patents. There's a utility patent, which covers an article of manufacture, software, chemical compositions, and some varieties of plants. And there's also a provisional patent application. And a lot of people call it a provisional patent, but it's not really a patent. A provisional patent application is an application that's similar to the patent, and it has a detailed description of the invention and how it works, but it doesn't require a set of claims or a discussion of the prior art and that kind of stuff. The starting point in the whole process is to do a patent search to find out what's on file in the patent office that might be similar to yours, or what's available in the public domain that might be similar to yours. Because in order for you to qualify for a patent, it has to be unique and useful, and if it's out there somewhere, it has to be unobvious based on what's already out there. So those are obviousness and novelty are words that are used by the patent office. And I'll explain to you in a little bit. Like I say, the starting point is to do the patent search. And you can do a search yourself, or you can hire a search firm, or you can go through the patent attorney or a patent agent. Let me explain what a patent agent is. A patent attorney has a technical degree, and he passes the bar exam to practice patent law. A patent agent has a technical degree, and he passes that same bar exam, but he doesn't have a law degree. So we could do we're licensed to practice patent law, but we can't do other kinds of law like contracts and wills and divorces like a patent attorney might be able to do. We're restricted to patent law, or we can't practice other kinds of patent or other kinds of law. We can't do trademarks either. But the patent search is the starting point, because if you see something that's similar to yours or that's like yours, then you need to get an opinion on whether or not whether or not yours is different enough to be patentable. And that's one of the advantages of going through a patent attorney or a patent agent for a search, is because they can read the patent. How many people have ever seen a patent? Okay, so So the language, you've seen, it's like Greek. And if you don't understand the patent language, you don't really, even if you do your own search, you don't really know if yours is different enough to qualify for a patent. So one of the advantages of going through a patent agent or a patent attorney is that you get an opinion of patentability. Usually when I do a search, I can pretty much give a person the odds of whether or not you're going to be able to get a patent. You know, I might say, well, there's a slim chance or a good chance or a maybe, you know, but, or sometimes a no. You know, it's not different enough. You're wasting your time and your money. Doesn't mean you can't market the invention, it just means that it's going to be very difficult to protect it. Back to my notes here. You can do if you wanted to do your patent search first, you could go to the Patent Office database, which is www.uspto.gov, and click on patents. You can do Google has a database of patents too. You can do a Google Advanced Patent Search, and that website is www.google.com/advanced_patent_search. Those two are the ones that I use a lot, and there's also a third one called Free Patents Online, and that's freepatentsonline.com. And usually I use all three of those to get, for example, Google doesn't always have the latest versions, but they have advantages of being able to download the PDF file and get take a look at the drawings. And some of the others, they have the drawings, but they're hard to find. And and also the way that you type it, you can do start out with a keyword and put in the keywords that you use in your describing your invention and see what comes up. And then once you've found some patents that are some kind of similar to yours, there's a code on there that says the class and the subclass. And then you can go back and do a search in that particular class and subclass and find all of the patents that are listed in that same class and subclass. And patents can be classified in several different classes and subclasses. So it's kind of complicated, but you might, if you've got an idea, I would advise doing a search yourself, and if you don't find anything, that means one, you're looking in the wrong place, two, it's not patentable, or three, there's no market for it. So if you don't find it, then I would suggest that you get a professional search done, or through a patent attorney or a patent agent, and get that opinion of patentability. Let's see. Cost for doing a patent search depends on who you go through. If you go through, there are some patent search firms and they charge $300 to $400. If you go through a patent attorney or a patent agent, it can range from $500 to $700 for a search. Like I say, it's worth spending the money on a search, because if you don't, then you're just spinning your wheels. You're not going to be able to protect it. But you might be able to market it, but there's a way of protecting it during that process. I can briefly go through the detailed discussion of the patent, where all the parts. The patent has an oath, and a declaration, and the specification on average patent runs 20 to 25 pages of written description, and then it has a set of drawings that go along with that description, and they have to have reference numerals. And both of them, you put the reference numerals in the specification when you're talking about the details, the features, and then the drawings have to have numbers that match that specification. And then there's a set of claims at the end, and the claims are the most important. They're the critical part of your patent. The claims determine what your property actually consists of. And for example, if you have a bicycle, or you find a patent has a bicycle with claims that describe a frame, propulsion means, or it has a frame, a front wheel and a rear wheel, and propulsion means for rotating the wheels and a steering mechanism. That's a real broad claim for a bicycle. But a limited claim would be one that says it's got a frame, handlebars for steering, and the propulsion means is a chain with a sprocket on the rear wheel, and the frame has a pedal system for driving the chain around the sprocket to propel the vehicle. So what I'm trying to say is that the claim language is critical, and if you don't have good claims or broad claims, then it's easy to get around. Somebody could get around that patent if they eliminated the chain, or the sprocket, or the handlebar, or the frame. So in order for somebody to infringe a claim, they have to have each ABC, they have to have each and every one of those elements that's in that claim. And the claims are usually written in a way that you have a base, what they call a base claim, which is the minimum thing to make it allowable. And then you have subclaims that are called dependent claims. That it would say, the dependent claim would say a vehicle according to claim number 1, wherein the chain is the drive means is a chain. So you break it down. You don't put everything into your base claim, but you spread it out and make it into dependent claims. So it's kind of complex, and like say, if you haven't read a patent or looked at the claims, so if you have, then you can appreciate the claim language. Anybody have any questions on that part of it? No? Okay. Let me cover what they call a provisional patent application. How many people have heard that term before? Almost everybody. Okay. How did you hear about a provisional application?
I heard it from here myself.
Okay. Okay.
I've found many times.
Okay. A provisional patent application is just an application. It's not. It never turns into a patent. It acts as a placeholder. And the provisional application doesn't require a description of the prior art, and it doesn't require a set of claims even. It's just a technical description, and it does require a set of drawings that are that illustrate that invention. But the provisional application is inexpensive. Most people, if you go through a patent agent or a patent attorney, they charge about half of what the regular patent would be, and then they charge the other half when you file the regular patent. But the provisional, if you do it yourself, and a lot of people try that, is $70 if you do it yourself and file it electronically. And then that provisional will last for 1 year. It gives you 12 months to file the regular patent application. So it acts as a placeholder, and it gives a patent pending situation, which will expire after 1 year. And if you file the regular non-provisional application, then you can claim priority of that provisional filing date. So a lot of people will file a provisional application to see if they can find a market for it. Because the provisional does show ownership. It's implied ownership that this is your concept and you filed it in the patent office. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be patentable, but it does give you something that you can talk to a potential manufacturer if you're trying to work out a license agreement or sell it to somebody. It's good to have that provisional on file. And you can't change a provisional application once it's filed, or the regular patent. But you can file, with a provisional, you can file a series of, if you're in the development process, if you're still working out the bugs and the design of it, and getting input from manufacturers and things like that, then you can file a series of provisional applications. And then just when you file the regular patent, you can claim priority of that provisional that was less than a year ago. So you'll see a lot of patents that have this patent claim priority provisional application filed on so-and-so, and provisional application filed on this date. So you can claim a string of provisional applications, but you can't go back more than a year. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about provisionals?
Yeah.
Okay.
Suppose the utility patent is 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I filed the provision patent application. Okay.
Okay.
And then after about the provision patent is going to be expired, I filed the formal the utility patent.
Okay.
Okay. Then the time of the patent will be 19 years instead of 20 years because the utility patent is included.
Right. Right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You're claiming priority to that provisional application. Well, I don't think that the 20-year term counts the provisional. I have to look that up. No, you still have 20 years from the filing date. No, it's the provisional filing date.
Not accounted from the provision patent application file date. It's not accounted. It's just counted for the formal, right?
Right, right, right. Your maintenance fees will also run for that. That's another thing too. Is, let's talk about provisionals. Go ahead.
If you file a provisional patent and then you want to file for improvement 6 months later, is it attached to the original?
No.
So,
No,
you're starting all over
yeah, brand
with
new
a whole
provisional.
year.
Right.
I got you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
your
you can't
provisional
change it
patent
once
will
it's
last
filed.
a year and a half, actually, as long as you keep filing some
Yeah.
new changes. It can kind of go on indefinitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can also file another, if you haven't made a public disclosure, then you can just refile that same provisional again. What counts is the public disclosure. If you file a provisional and then you put it on YouTube or something like that, then you've made a public disclosure. So the 1 year time bar starts from the first public disclosure. Yes, sir.
You said you can file a string of provisional applications one after another. But you can only claim the last one that you used?
Yeah, the one that is in with that 1 year period.
Gotcha. So the only reason you would be filing a string of them is just to keep that alive?
Right, right, right.
And you said you filed the same provisional patent application multiple times?
Right, right. Yeah, as long as you haven't made a public disclosure.
Right.
So.
Question.
Yes.
Once you file that provisional patent application,
Mm-hmm.
is that when you see on certain products, patent pending?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you can put patent pending on your product if you go right out and try to market?
Right,
Okay.
right.
A question.
And once the patent issues, you need to put the patent number on there. But on a provisional patent, if you file a provisional patent, don't put that provisional application serial number on there. It doesn't mean you have a patent and it's not your property. The provisional is just like say it's a,
Yeah.
it keeps your place in line in the patent. Yeah.
Ken, Mr. Fink, when he spoke one night here, he said something about on a regular patent, if I remember correct, you can file an amendment on that patent if you have.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, but I thought you said you couldn't read.
Well, an amendment is something different, and I'll talk about that.
Oh,
in a minute.
okay, that confused me, he's telling, you couldn't, but okay.
No,
Thank
no,
you.
no.
All right, sir.
No. Any more questions on provisionals?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I was gonna ask you, I didn't quite understand everything you asked right there, that you can file an amendment to a provisional patent?
No,
No.
Or you reference that provisional patent if you file another provision that reference the previous one?
Yeah,
Or
you
start
can,
over from
yeah,
scratch?
you can, you claim priority of that provisional when you file the regular, non-provisional
I'm
application.
saying, if you file a provisional and then you wanna file another provision because you make changes on it or something, do you reference that first provision?
No,
Or You start
no.
over from scratch again with that new
Right,
provisional?
right. Provisional, yeah. Provisional application cannot claim priority of another provisional application.
Everyone is to start from scratch.
Right,
You let the first one expire.
right. Yes, sir.
Yeah. It said, if somebody file provision patent application and the market his product and say the patent pending,
Mm-hmm,
okay, then I can copy his product right away and also sell on the market. Until this utility patent being granted,
mm-hmm.
then he asked me to stop, then I stop. But
Right.
before that, I can copy his idea, right?
Yeah.
Copy his everything, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes about, when you file the regular patent application, the non-provisional, it takes about 1.5 or 2 years for it to work its way through the patent office. But you still have that patent pending status.
I have a question.
Okay.
Does a provisional patent also require a patent search? Do you have to provide proof of the patent search?
Yeah, because when I write a patent application, I always discuss the prior art, what turned up in the patent search, and it enables me to also describe it in a way that makes it different from what turned up in the search, and also talk about the benefits and advantages and the differences, how yours has more advantages than this other. So it's good information to put into the provisional.
So the patent office will confirm, even though it's provisional patent?
No, the provisional applications, it doesn't get examined or anything.
Okay.
I've seen people file their own provisional application, which may be just a couple of paragraphs.
Yeah.
It
And
just
they
establishes.
send it to the patent office and they get a serial number and a patent pending status. And some inventors even try to write their own regular application and they'll just copy what they had in the provisional, and that's really a big pain. I get a couple of clients every year that are like that. And they bring me a patent application that they wrote based on their provisional application, and it's really hard to straighten it out once they file the non-provisional. Yes, sir.
The patent office says, they never read the provision patent application. Okay?
Right.
But I believe they read it.
They read it after, when you file the,
When you send it,
Yeah.
okay, they read it. Then after they read it, they say that this has nothing to do the national defense, or to do how to make a nuclear bomb. Then they give it a paper say that now you can apply the foreign patent. Otherwise they will not tell you, now you can apply.
Well, they,
Yeah, you can apply
subject
for
matter,
impact,
yeah. If you have a weapon or a bomb or something like that,
Yeah,
then
I
it,
believe they read
it
it,
gets
but
sent to a
they don't
different
read it
department.
in detail. They just scan on it.
right. They glance at it to make sure, sometimes the drawings are so bad that they can't put it in their file system, so they do briefly go over it. But there's some, if it has a title that deals with something that might affect the government security, then it goes through a different examination process to where they have to get clearance from a government agency to be able to grant that patent. Weapons of destruction and bombs and things like that, they usually take a close look at. Let's see. Once the patent application is examined, the non-provisional, it's assigned to a patent examiner. And that patent examiner will read your application, and he will take a real close look at the claims, and he will conduct a very thorough search. And he will almost always reject the patent application. He rejects the claims. There's several different ways it could be. One is if the claims, it's called a section 112 rejection, and that deals with grammar and form. So the way the claims are written grammatically can cause the claim to be rejected. The other is called a section 102, which means anticipated. And that means the patent examiner has found a patent that's the same as what you're claiming. And the most common rejection is a 103, section 103, which is obviousness. And that means that even though the reference that he found is not exactly like yours, he can combine bits and pieces of those and say that it's obvious to someone skilled in that art to have made those modifications. And almost all patent applications will get rejected on the first go-around, first examination, because the patent attorney or patent agent is trying to get the broadest claim language possible. And in order to get the broadest claims possible, it's easy for the patent examiner to find other patents that fall within or are similar to that invention. And he can take bits and pieces from those patents and combine those and say it'd be obvious to someone skilled in that art to have modified that frame to have the sprocket at the bottom, because he could take a vehicle that has a frame and a drive propulsion means or a drive means, and even though it's not a sprocket, he could find another patent that has a sprocket with a pedal assembly or a chain drive thing. So he can combine different features. He can take bits and pieces from other patents and combine those. And they almost always get rejected on the first go-around, and the patent examiner will cite usually 3 or 4 patents. And each one of those is not exactly like yours, but combined, if you take all those pieces and put them together, it'd be very similar to yours. And usually, if it gets rejected, you can file what they call an amendment. You were talking about an amendment. That's what an amendment is. That's where you go in.
Now, if you got rejected, I thought that was an appeal.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. Well,
Appeal is the last resort.
Okay. All
The
right.
amendment is, he will cite those patents and he will send you copies of the patents that were cited, or he'll give you the patent numbers and you can look them up. But he will almost always reject it on that obviousness issue. And then you can go back and amend the claims, and an amendment is where you change the wording or modify the wording to more exactly define your invention, or you can combine some of the things you had in the dependent claim, put that into the base claim, and that combination would make it different from what the patent examiners found. And then in that amendment, you have to present an argument of why it would not be obvious or how yours is different from these other patents. And usually after one rejection and you file the amendment, the examiner may come back again with another amendment, and he may cite some different references that he found based on those modified claims. And usually after one or two office actions, he will issue what they call a notice of allowance. And that means that he's allowing those claims, and then you have to pay an issue fee, and then the patent will be granted and published. But if you don't, after the second or third office action, he will give you what they call a final rejection. And that means that he's done with it. He don't want to see it again. And then you can file what they call an appeal. You can appeal the examiner's decision, and then you have to file. It's like a legal argument that you file, and the appeal goes to a board of examiners. It's a committee that has different examiners from different divisions in there, and then they will review the examiner's holdings on why it was rejected, and they will review your arguments. So the appeal process can take a long, long time. They have a backlog of those. And they will either decide that the patent was in error, and then they will grant those claims, or that the examiner is correct and you don't have a chance of getting the patent. So that's basically what the process is. Does anybody have any questions on the non-provisional application? Yes.
How long does it usually take for the non-provisional application to go through the system?
The non-provisional, it takes anywhere from a year and a half, or a year to 2.5 years. It depends, like, when the patent is filed, it goes into a class and a subclass, and each one of those examining divisions have different examiners. So it depends on what the class and subclass is. But if you've got an electronic device, you're going to have a long wait. You know, the popular inventions that are filed, the longer it takes to get them through the patent office, because they have a huge backlog. You can also petition to have expedited handling. One is based on age. If you're 65, you can request expedited handling, and they'll give it priority in that process. Yes, sir.
Just as, I mean, we may not be covering this yet, but let's say I do want to do a non-provisional patent. What are we looking at price?
Price range?
Yeah.
In the Houston area, it ranges anywhere from, and it depends on who you go to. It ranges, the non-provisional ranges anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000. It depends on whether or not you go through a law firm or an individual attorney or a patent agent. I can give you my fees. I charge $1,500 for writing a non-provisional, and then I charge $2,000. I mean, $1,500 for the provisional, and then $2,000 for the non-provisional. It comes out the same. If you go straight for the regular, I charge $3,500. So, and most attorneys charge about half and half.
On the regular patent application, have you ever find that people get rejected and bad through their appeal and everything, they go overseas and file?
Yeah. Oh, patent filing overseas is very expensive, and it's almost futile as far as getting your money back, even if it's successful. Foreign patents cost about twice as much as the regular U.S. patent. And defending that patent, you have to defend it in the country. You have to pay an attorney in that country to defend the patent. And it's almost futile. You're better off taking that money and spending it on your marketing efforts.
You mentioned your fee for utility would be what?
If you go straight for the non-provisional, it's $3,500. If you do in 2 steps, if you file the provisional, it's $1,500, and then $2,000 for the...
Would it be 2,000 if you did not handle the provisional?
No,
It would be more.
yeah,
You'd have to have both of those.
yeah.
What would you charge? You know, would you be able to tell me what would you charge if for the utility?
It's $2,000.
No, I
It's
mean-
$3,500 if you just do the
I have a provisional in,
Okay.
so if I decide to move forward.
Oh, yeah, I get that question a lot. You've already got the provisional filed, and you want to file the non-provisional.
Right.
It depends on how well the application is, and because if I write it, then I know it's done well.
Right.
But if somebody brings me something that was done by somebody else, or that it was done by themselves.
Another attorney.
Pardon
It
me?
was done by an attorney.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I would have to look at it and see,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. So it could be 2,000, you know. It just depends on how well it was written.
Sure, thanks.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What's your turnaround time on one of those?
Right now, my backlog, it takes usually 60 to 90 days, 2 or 3 months. It depends on what kind of condition it is when somebody brings it in. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned services at the beginning of your discussion. You mentioned there are services out there, some are good or some are bad. You said most are bad. Can you give us any information? I mean, tell us about some of the good ones, tell us about some of the bad ones.
As far as...
The services, companies that advertise.
Oh, yeah, Invent Health is one. Davison Associates is another one.
That are bad ones?
Oh, yeah.
You ever hear of Invention Home?
Oh, yeah.
Bad, good?
In my opinion, there's one called Invention Health, which is different from Invention Home. And I've had clients that have gone through both of those. And Invention Health is probably the worst one. Invention Home is a little bit better, but I still had to go back and redo what they did. So they sometimes don't do a very good search because they want to sell you the marketing services. So they file an inexpensive provisional application, and then they start sending you emails about marketing. So.
Are there any good ones?
Edison Nation is one that we've had several members and past speakers that have been through that. Edison Nation, if you Google that, you'll find out that it's a company that tries to help you with your invention, but it has to go through an 8-step evaluation process. And if it gets to the 8th level, then they will try to find a market for you. One of our members went through there and they got their product in Bed Bath & Beyond, and they did a test market and it didn't sell too well, so now it's not on the market. There was another lady, Houston inventor, that had a product called the Aggies. I don't know if you ever saw that or not, but it was, if you've seen it, okay. The Aggies, it cost $25, at that time it was $25 to go through, to have it evaluated and go through an 8-step thing. And she went through there and got, her invention was a little plastic shell that you break the egg and then you put it in that shell, then you boil that plastic shell. And
Egglets, egglets,
Aggies,
egglets.
It's on TV.
Aggies, they were on TV. Yeah,
Oh, it was,
yeah, it was on TV for probably 5 years. It was a real hot, late night, as seen on TV product. And she made several $1 million on that. And it only cost her $25. And I know personally about 8 people who have been through the Edison Nation thing, and 2 are happy and 3 are not very happy. Maybe this coming year we get one of those speakers that have been through that and talk about it. I was thinking one of them had an exercise system. It was called, what was it called, Kevin?
Cardio poles.
Cardio poles. And it also went through Edison Nation, and they sold it to a company, and then that company kind of quit marketing it. I guess it didn't sell real well or something. It had to be demonstrated to sell. And but anyway, he's starting up again, and now he's marketing it on his own. But during that development process, they developed a lot of videos, and on his website you can see all of those real good videos. So there are some products that have to be demonstrated. You know, you can't tell by looking at the package in the store what it does. So there are a lot of peculiarities about types of inventions. Some will sell themselves. You see a picture of it and say, oh yeah, I see how that works.
Right.
And then others that say, well, it looks like a ski pole, you know. But, let's see, there are other companies, there are other Houston area organizations that can help. On our third Wednesday, Gary, do you want to talk about that a little bit? The third Wednesday meeting, we hold that here, and it's where I'll let Gary talk about that. Gary Henderson.
Okay, well, I mentioned it to a lot of you as you come in, but third Wednesday, which is next Wednesday, it's open to members only. So you can join then too when you come in, but everybody signs a non-disclosure so that you can't speak about anything you've heard in there to the outside and say disclose one of the inventions or ideas. But it's your chance to come in with your invention, your ideas, sketches, or just verbal, whatever you're comfortable with. Bring that in, and we all can comment on it. There's other people in there with their inventions, and they may have some things to throw in. And it's very valuable because most people have their 2 cents worth they throw in and tell you how you can improve it, some additional things you might consider. And then there's a lot of information on patents, patentability. Of course, Ken is usually there, and several other people that are very knowledgeable about patents and patent stuff. So it's all free of charge, and one of the most valuable sessions you can probably get, you know, especially for free. And again, you have to sign a non-disclosure. We keep those, and if we ever hear of a disclosure that's out of order, then we take necessary action, you know, and try to get everything fixed up. But we've never had one of those situations, I'll say that. Everybody keeps their confidentiality real well. And again, the inventor can only disclose what he or she feels comfortable with. And lately we've been having quite a few people. Third Wednesdays, sometimes we'll have 15, 20, 22 or 3 people. You know, it just kind of varies. Sometimes the weather stills us, or a ball game or something like that, but not very often. Some of the times when we thought the Astros were going to, you know, knock us in the dirt last year, boy, we had people pile in, you know, because people are anxious to get their inventions on the road, and as many comments as possible and input and ideas, directions. So it's a real good session. So if you can make the third Wednesday, and again, that's next Wednesday, a week from tonight, we'll be having it. It'll be just down the hall in the art room, I guess, but it'll have directions. This place, easy to find things, you know, around here. So show up and Bring your gadgets. It can be in just about any form you want, anything you're comfortable with. Like I say, if it's a sketch or if you just want to describe it, or if you've got drawings or models, you can bring that in and show as much as you want of it and get comments.
And look for membership if you're not a member.
Members only, yes.
Members only.
You have to pay your annual membership fees, and we want people that are real committed to attend. And so
Can you pay that at the door?
you can pay it at the door, yes. Well, Kevin will have his cash box and credit card reader up there, and we'll sign you in right then. So it's a valuable session, so encourage you to attend if you have that time free, or even if you don't have it free, take it free. Is that it?
Yeah, you can also, at those meetings, you can also get a lot of help as far as marketing. A lot of times you'll get suggestions on a market that you may not even thought about, or how you could change the product to meet a bigger market. Yes, sir.
What is the class that they have at Rice University Library?
Oh, that's the patent searching class,
Fondren Library.
Rice University, yeah,
Fondren.
right.
Because
Because
when they hold that,
you'll have to go to Rice University. Usually it's on a Saturday, I think, and it costs about $10. And you can go to Rice University, and they have a patent depository library. They have patents on microfilm, or not microfilm, but they can teach you how to do a search right there. I don't have that information with me. You'll have to look up Rice University, see if you can find the library services. Any other questions on anything? Yes, sir.
What's your opinion on manufacturers that do not or will not sign an NDA?
There are some that won't sign a non-disclosure agreement, but if you have a provisional file or the non-provisional, I don't see any reason not to send it to them.
Okay.
What was that question?
Pardon me?
What was the question?
Oh, manufacturing companies that will not sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Okay.
But usually they do that to protect themselves from liability lawsuits, because they may already be working on a product like that.
You, in your career though, you haven't seen a lot of people abuse that and steal the idea or anything like that?
Right.
And you're good.
Right.
Okay, that's good to know.
Right, it depends on the market usually. If you've got a toy item or something like that, there are companies that will copy that, because the life of the toy product is only a couple of years.
Right.
So they can get it on the market and off the market before your patent even issues.
Right.
Yes, sir.
If you have like a product that you're thinking about manufacturing, but it's non-patentable, then would you want to get an NDA?
Yes, if you don't have it, if you're not protected, I would be very careful with dealing with the manufacturer.
What was that, if what now?
He said if you don't have a patent.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually I advise clients to, if you have a company that you want to present it to, tell them that you've got this product idea and ask them what their policy is, and for them to send you a copy of their disclosure agreement, and then have it reviewed by a patent attorney or an agent. Yes, sir.
So if you get a utility patent, that's good for 20 years? Is that right?
The utility, yeah, the utility patent is what I'm referring to. The
Yeah.
utility, the provisional and the non-provisional are both utility patents.
Okay.
The
And
utility patent is distinguished over a design patent or or a plant patent.
Right. My question is, how long does that protect you?
It's the same, 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
So after the 20 years expires,
Then
anyone
it
else can
becomes,
make it?
right, once it expires, it becomes public domain.
Okay, no one can
In other words, you can
repatent.
find an old patent and manufacture that same product. It becomes public domain, free for anybody to use.
Can you use a piece of it and repatent it?
No, it would have to be something that's not obvious, whatever modification you make to it.
Make an improvement.
Yeah.
The improvement has to be a patent.
Right, there you go. Yeah. And also you can sometimes get a patent on the method of manufacturing the product.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many people have heard of Stephen Key? Okay, a lot of people. That's one of the things he did with several of his patents. He couldn't get the patent, so he went on the product, so he went back and refiled on the method of manufacturing the product. So, we've had Stephen Key as our speaker, I think 3 times.
Wow.
And we'll get him back next time he's making a book tour. Mark Peterson, who is our other vice president, he and I are members of what they call the Inventors Groups of America, and we get with Stephen Key usually once a month and have a video conference with him. So, yeah, and he has a website called InventRight. That's a good website. They've got a lot of videos on there. InventRight.tv. And there's all kind of videos on there.
You said InventRight what now?
InventRight.tv on YouTube. Yeah. And anyway, Stephen Key he's kind of a big deal. But he specializes in marketing. And he doesn't care about protecting the idea that much. It's just get it on the market. Yes?
Have you all discussed, or this is my first time attending, Shark Tank? What is your take on that?
Shark Tank?
Yes, sir.
It's for amusement purposes usually. About half of those deals, they don't materialize, even though they show that the shark invested in it. But they usually pick inventions that are what they think would interest the general public. And we've had one speaker that was on Shark Tank once before. We've had a lot of members that have applied, to be on the TV show, but for most purposes, it's for entertainment purposes more than anything else. But they do ask some key questions. I advise everybody to watch that show and pay attention to what the sharks are asking those inventors, because that's valuable information. And a lot of times those sharks will say, what's proprietary about that? That means, do you have a patent on it? So, if it's not patented, they say, well, I could go down the street and do the same thing. What makes it such a big deal? So, anyway, Shark Tank is a good show. Any other questions on marketing? Yeah.
Speaking of Shark Tank, are there investor groups out there like that are looking for opportunities like what are presented on Shark Tank?
As far as
Just opportunity.
Investor groups.
inventor groups?
Investor.
Oh, investor groups.
Yes.
Is there a viable group?
Usually, there are some that have been contacted by investors after they appeared on Shark Tank. But I don't know, switching it the other way around, but I know some people there are some Shark Tank contestants, that made a presentation and they didn't get the money, but then they got a lot of money from, just from being on TV. One of them was a table leveling device. Okay. He was our speaker one time. Yeah.
I have some of those at the office, some of those table levelers.
Yeah.
Maybe it may not be his, but.
Yeah, but he didn't get the money from sharks because they didn't understand. His was on restaurants, and they have a special kind of leg setup that makes it different from a regular table. And but anyway, he made a lot of money after being on Shark Tank just because he was on Shark Tank.
A lot of attention.
Got the exposure.
Yeah.
You know, this process seems kind of daunting to go from an idea all the way to market.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a lot for any individual to take on.
Exactly.
I can understand why these service companies are popular or why they would be
Right.
you know, tempting.
Yeah.
And you can certainly fall into a bad one, but
Right.
I don't know, it's probably a pretty broad question, but how can you know, are most people equipped to take it from?
No, most inventors need help.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for one person to do everything. Especially if you're going to get on, if you're going to make it and sell it yourself, that's almost impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't compete. Even if, first of all, you have to start a company, then you have to get a sales, you know, pay for manufacturing and the mold costs and all that, which is a lot of money. And then you have to get a sales rep. And if you've only got one product, you can't find a rep that's going to drive across town to sell one type of product. And usually you would have to piggyback. I had some experience with that. Before I became a patent agent, I used to design toys and games. I had a game that I had developed, and I went to the Dallas Toy Fair and displayed it there. I had the prototype, and the buyers would come by and they'd say, well, what does the box look like? And then the next year I went back and we had, at that show we were looking at one of the other guys at the booth that had a booth at that same show had a company called Tennessee Valley Press, and they had a board game called Rich Farmer, Poor Farmer. And they were trying to sell that game themselves. They were in production because he was a printer. And so we made a deal with him where he would publish our games, and then we would use the same sales rep. So by gang together, it was easy to get a sales rep because we had 3 or 4 different board games that the sales rep could try to push. So trade shows are another way to get good information.
I was just fishing to ask you, is that?
Right, that's very valuable. And even if you don't have a booth, it's very expensive to get a booth at the trade shows. But if you take your product with you and you can go around that trade show and you'll meet the people that are behind the booths at those trade shows are their new product people. They're out there to introduce their new product and to see what else is new in the market. And it's well worth the time if you at that point to go to the trade show and just take your business card and try to make an appointment, meet somebody and shake their hand and say, well, I'll contact you, or where are you staying? I'll come over to your hotel room and we can talk about this. So it's a good way to make contacts at those trade shows.
Since you're on that subject, where is a good place to even look for trade shows going on at?
There's several websites. I don't know if we have some linked in our, but you can Google trade shows in Houston, and you can get a list, or Texas. I mean, a lot of trade shows are in Dallas. Yeah. Houston is more oil related, but Dallas, they have toys and clothing and all different types of products that have trade shows in Dallas.
So,
yes.
So you go there and get business cards, which you wouldn't recommend walking around with your product?
I would not. In fact, they may not let you in with it.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's a lot of times it's difficult to get into trade shows.
Let me back up. What you might do is make a video on your cell phone, make a little short commercial, and then you'll have it with you.
Cell phones?
Right.
tablet, too much?
Yeah, it depends on what they'll let you in with the
I
trade
got
show.
you. They'll let you in with.
Sometimes security is kind of tight. You know. Yes, sir.
One of the ways you can get into a trade show, if you are willing to take the time, is to go there and find someone leaving and get their badge, which I've done before, and use their badge to get in the trade show.
Great. All right, I never heard that one before. That's good. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ken, what other kind of stuff have you patented yourself?
Toys and games. I did a golf ball washer, two-wheel skate. I did like 3 board games. And then by that time I was becoming a patent agent, so I could. But we marketed those board games for probably 3 years. So,
Did it pay off?
no, break even. There were a lot of people involved. You know, there were in one of the first ones we did, there was an inventor, and then he had 3 friends. You know, so that was 4 people there. So even if we got royalty checks, it would go real quick.
Pie was cut up pretty quick.
Right. But, there was another question over here.
When I read about prior art and whatnot, it gets a bit confusing.
Mm-hmm.
My product is very, very simple, and it's made up of a handful of parts that are all ready on the market in different aspects, and they've never been combined and used in this particular way.
Okay.
Is that patentable?
It depends. And that's one of the things that the examiner is going to try to do when you file the non-provisional. If they're in the public domain, or if they at one time were patented, he could take all those things and put them together. But what you have to do is make a big deal. When I write a patent, the non-provisional, I say that I list everything that I'm aware of and tell how it's different. And then when it gets rejected and you do your argument, and one of the arguments is there would be no reason to combine those absent seeing my application.
Which brings the question,
Yeah,
how many of yours first time around been rejected?
almost all of them. I've been doing this for 35 years, and I've had probably, I'd say maybe 6 that went through without getting rejected.
Wow.
Some of them I thought I was going to be in for a long battle, and to my surprise, I got a notice of allowance, so it's just, yes, sir.
And why would you want to get a provisional patent?
To give you time to develop the idea, one is to save some money, and give you time to investigate the market with a patent pending status. Those are the basic 2 reasons.
Does it give you 1 year, or can it be extended?
No, but you can file, if you have not made a public disclosure, then you can file another provisional.
Right.
If somebody hire you to do the non-provision patent, and then it's come out to have the office action, and how you charge for your response?
Oh, amendments?
Yeah.
I usually charge anywhere from $300 to $500 for an amendment. Depends on how many references that were
$300
cited.
to $500.
Yeah, in some cases. If it's going to take a lot of time.
The maximum, how much you going to charge?
5,
5.
yeah. So usually I charge $300 to $400. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
If you've got
Keep them coming. Keep the questions coming.
If you already filed for a patent, so you're patent pending at this point, and you want to make amendments to it, if you make amendments at that point, you got to wait for the patent all the way through the process before you make your amendment.
On the non-provisional,
Yeah, non-provisional.
you can't change it once it's been filed.
Right.
that you can change the claim language to cover that modification or that new part if you've made an improvement. And if you can't, you can file what they call a continuation in part, which is based part on that original application and the new stuff.
Give you background on the question I'm asking about, I had one of these services file on patents, and he did cover all aspects of it very thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just going, there's going to be more patents filed or more amendments filed, I'm not sure exactly where to go from here on that.
Yeah.
Guess they make an appointment, come see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you do.
Sometimes sometimes, and that's another thing too, before you file an application, it's always a good idea to build a prototype. Because you can file a patent application and then build a prototype, and then you discover, well, it could be done a lot easier or more, it could be done cheaper if I did this to it. And you end up having a patent that's filed that doesn't cover the best way of doing it.
Is a prototype need to be working, or is it just a fake one will be okay?
It depends on what the product is. You know, if it's mechanical, it'd probably be good to have something that would work, or at least have some CAD drawings made. Because sometimes in making those CAD drawings, they can determine whether or not something's going to interfere with something else. You know, it's like a three-dimensional model, but they can manipulate it.
Who do you go to for these CAD drawings?
Pardon me?
Where do you go find somebody that does the CAD drawings for you?
Yeah, yeah.
Where do you find these people at?
There's one back there, and Bill Patitz, where's Bob? Where's Bill Hardy?
Do we have?
Okay, Bill just got a 3D printer.
Do we have anybody in our membership that can do the 3D printing?
Yeah,
3D.
Bill Hardy and Justin Yip.
Okay, so I just give me an idea to them, and they can draw the 3D and print out the
Yeah.
prototype for me.
Yeah. Yeah. We have two people right here. Any other questions? Yes.
Basically, as far as dealing with a provisional, if you're gonna make a change into it, the best thing to do is just make a whole new one, send it in, and start on,
Yeah, you have to on a provisional.
regardless of what you.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't change a provisional application once it's filed. You can file one a month later, or 3 months later, or 6 months later. Yeah. Or you can just put it in, make the change when you file the regular non-provisional. The non-provisional doesn't have to be exactly like the provisional.
Right, okay.
But what can happen in that case is that you would have benefit or priority what the provisional had in it. It would have priority that first filing,
Right.
and the second subject matter would have priority for regular filing.
There's one thing, when you file the provision patent application, then you file the non-provision patent application. The non-provision patent application, the scope cannot be larger, bigger than your provision.
Yes.
You talk about the end game a little bit. If we go through this whole process, we've got our idea, we've patented it, so we get to the patent process.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're looking for manufacturers. I mean, we're probably not gonna try to fund the entire manufacturer marketing ourselves.
Yeah.
So let's say you're before a manufacturer. What are the scenarios based on that? I heard people talk about licensing.
Yeah.
Are there also options to just sell something outright? And what
Yeah.
happens at that point?
Mark Peterson, our other vice president, usually does the third Wednesday meetings, but he'll probably be our speaker in February, and he talks about the marketing, the licensing. You basically have two routes. You can either manufacture it yourself, or you can license it to another company. And I think that most inventors are in the situation where you're better off trying to license it to another company, and you get a royalty check.
Right.
And royalty checks range anywhere from 3 to 10%, depending on what the product is. And that doesn't sound like very much, but if you license it, you usually end up licensing it to a large company. And 3% of a lot is better than 100% of not very much.
Yeah.
Are you licensing it to a manufacturer or to a brand that uses?
Usually the company that is marketing it has their own manufacturing facility.
Right.
So,
Like Mattel?
right, and they pay for all the manufacturing and that kind of
So
stuff.
you're saying that chances are your greater gain to you may hit 10% at best?
It depends, there are some guidelines, and some different types of products, you know, are good for 10%, others are 3%. But 5% is considered a good royalty rate.
So I'm not hearing you say go beyond 10, so you don't really expect more than that?
No,
Okay.
no. Yes,
This is kind of an indirect question to the 3D printer.
okay, 3D printer guys, Bill?
Typically, what do you charge for a simple part?
Like I was telling you, I'm just getting into it, but so I'll give you a real good deal.
Look at the drawing first.
Okay, and Justin,
Yeah, it kind of depends on the complexity. If it's real simple, then probably not that much. But if it has like multiple parts and they all have to move and mesh together, especially if like you get into like electronics or something, then that's a whole different kind of engineering.
Do you have a business card?
Yeah.
I don't, but I can give you my information. I should probably just get some. But we can talk after it.
yes, sir.
Have you ever heard of a manufacturer who's interested in the product paying for the utility?
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing, if you have a provisional, like I said before, that provisional application is implied ownership. That means it's presumed that you own that concept. But approaching a licensor is good once you file a provisional, because they will pay sometimes for the non-provisional applications.
Thank you.
I talked to Edison Nation, while I was on a computer with them, and they don't hardly talk to you unless you got provisional files. They say right there, right straight up, you know, it's provisional first,
Yeah,
and they'll talk to you.
right. Yeah. Yeah, it protects them too.
I can see that.
Right. Yeah. Any other questions? Well, I appreciate you coming out. One other thing is that we get this facility for free. But one of the things we have to do is pick up the tables and fold them up. They go in